The Shooting Range. In this episode, Pages of History, the Chronicles of a Soviet Strategic Bomber. Challenge, Unguided Air-to-Air Missiles. And Metal Beasts, the Italian piston-engined supercar. Today's highlight takes up an honorable place in the history of piston-engine fighters. This is the best brainchild of Reggiane, the beautiful Re.2005, with a battle rating of 5.3. It was one of the three Serie 5 Italian fighters, along with its counterparts, the G55 and the C205. Thanks to the ingenuity of the engineers, this plane's performance was on par with the best in the world. And the only reason it wasn't mass-produced was wartime difficulties. The heart of this machine is an inline 12-cylinder engine. The space between the spars houses the self-sealing fuel tanks. The plane is armed with a couple of large-caliber machine guns and three 20mm cannons. Additionally, it can carry bombs with calibers between 50 and 500 kilograms. As is expected from a fighter, the Re.2005 shows exceptional flight performance. With great aerodynamics and a powerful Messerschmitt engine, it's hard for others to gain an altitude advantage over it. And if the German Bf 109 wanted to compete in firepower, it'd need a couple of more cannons. We recommend choosing a belt against air targets, for it has plenty of the famous Minengeschloss rounds, the immediate action incendiary ones that explode anything they hit. When used sparingly, your ammo will last the whole battle. But there's still more. Thanks to its large wing area and great high-lift devices, the machine boasts excellent maneuverability as well. It wouldn't be enough to duel the Zero, sure, but you can surprise a Mustang or a Tempest with your tricks, all right. If you want a comparison of its flight performance to something more familiar, try to imagine the golden mean between the German Messerschmitts and the British Spitfires. Not half bad, eh? As for mixed battles, the Re.2005 has some use too. We recommend you take a single 500-kilogram bomb and a couple of 100-kilogram ones to fight ground vehicles. This plane has no problem exiting dives, so destroying 2 or 3 tanks won't be a challenge. Just remember to set your fuse to anything above a second to avoid an accidental self-sacrifice. Once you run out of your suspended armament, find some enemies with an open compartment or thin roof armor. Those are great targets for 20mm cannons. And of course, don't forget to hunt any enemy aviation you spot. Your allies driving tanks will be happy to know that no bombs are going to drop on their heads. The Ant-42, aka the TB7, also known as the PE-8 so many decades later, the arguments about this plane are raging just as hard now as they were back then. If it was so remarkable for the time, why wasn't this strategic bomber mass-produced? Why didn't the USSR make it in the thousands, unlike the Allies with their Flying Fortress, Liberator, Sterling, Halifax, or Lancaster? The question is trickier to answer than it might seem at first sight. You see, the Soviet industry was quite capable of producing the PE-8 in large numbers. After all, it handled the production of 6,500 all-metal SP bombers and almost 1,000 of the giant TB3s, all without ever running out of aviation-quality metals. Even though the PE-8 was much more sophisticated than both its younger brother, the SB, and the elder brother, the TB3, experience proved that factories could handle its construction well enough. Still, there were problems with it. The engine was the first one. The nation simply didn't have anything powerful enough. The AM-34 they had was enough for the giant TB3 to proudly and leisurely glide the skies, or for the MBR-2 to take off water. but not even close for a high-speed, high-altitude bomber. Speaking of altitude, the only thing that could help the future PE-8 get to an altitude unreachable for fighters was a turbocharger. And by the time the first prototype Ant-42 was built, the Soviet Union had only started designing them. Still, the main blow towards this strategic bomber was delivered by the Second World War itself. With Germany's rapid advance to the east, the nation had to make some urgent war decisions and evacuate the industries, which couldn't help reducing its capabilities. Thus, the air engines were used for the fighters and attack aircraft, which the front lines needed much more. So, in 1942, when the PE-8 had finally received a suitable engine, the powerful and reliable A-82, the window of opportunity for mass production was lost. The soon-to-become outdated plane was never made in large numbers. Even then, the few PE-8s that were produced made some change in the war. For instance, the night raids they performed in Germany during the autumn of 1941 made the Reich move a lot of fighters and anti-aircraft guns back home for defense. They also had to reconsider some daytime ground shipping missions, which reduced their communication capacity and mobility, and start investing heavily into night fighters. Finally, the PE-8's main achievement was made in May 1942, when it guarded the Soviet delegation through the skies of occupied Europe into London and then Washington. That mission's result was much scarier for Germany than any raid by 1,000 bombers. But that's a whole other story. Even a trainee pilot can hit an enemy with a guided air-to-air missile. That's what they were created for, after all. Today, though, we're going to complicate things here and go into a battle with unguided rockets. We're going to deliberately avoid the American F-89D Scorpion, a fighter with unguided missiles as its only weapon. It's simply too easy to hit your targets when your missiles have proximity fuses. We want a challenge. Our first attempt will fly the German Me-262 Sturmvogel. Its battle rating isn't too high and its wings can carry 24 rockets. By the way, they were even used against the flying fortresses in real life. Naturally, we're having some difficulties in our first battle. Hitting a tiny agile fighter is way harder than we imagined. One more attempt to get into a good firing position, and we almost got shot ourselves. Finally, a good moment. Time to spend the remaining rockets. And missed again. Well, we'll have to resort to cannons. Perhaps we should use a plane with more rockets? The American Skyhawk lifts up a whopping 133 of these. That's gotta be enough. After several failed attempts, the rockets fired close enough for us to finally destroy the first target. It's the British Javelin. It's far from the smallest target, of course. We can't say it's small at all. Still, it's a start. After a few more unsuccessful attempts, we get to Korea. Looking around the map, here's an enemy attack aircraft above the river. Diving to it, aiming, fire! One of the rockets hits its tail dead on and rips it off. The speeds were much higher this time, but one frag is still too little. On to the next battle then. We see two MiG-15s in front of us. Let's meet them head-on with the rockets. The first one goes to see the hangar screen. Turning to the second one, pressing fire, and yes! In a few seconds we've managed to down two enemy planes. And this time, they were both small single-engine fighters. Not bad. Still, there's room for improvement. Another battle looking for a target? Here's one spotted. It's trying to avoid a frontal attack, but gets right into the thick stream of rockets, loses its tail, and meets the ground. Here's the chat message reporting the LA-15 destroyed while we're making it to the second target. After a short dogfight, we find our way into a frontal attack, and we win it. The G91 caught some fire. Definitely totaled, and since we ran out of rockets after another attack, we have to make it back to reload. In a few minutes, we return to the battlefield and start tailing a careless Swedish fighter. Getting closer. Fire! One more enemy destroyed. Flying around, we spot a couple of enemy fighters and get some serious damage ourselves. Looks like we won't survive another attack. But one of our enemies makes a deadly mistake by risking a frontal attack. Time for some rockets, mate. That's our fourth frag in this battle. Challenge completed. Have you managed to destroy an enemy with rockets? Share your own experiences in the comments while we answer some of your questions. The first question was sent by a player called Alex Novak. What is the best playstyle for the Focke-Wulf 190 series fighters? I have the A5 model, but I'm very bad at it. Hi Alex, the best tactics for the FW190 planes are the frontal attacks and boom and zoom. We talked about them a few weeks ago. Check out episode 235 of the shooting range. By the way, the Focke-Wulf 190 fighters have a great roll rate, so you can employ the displacement roll maneuver to dodge enemy attack with a breeze. General Augusto Pinochet Ugarte asks, how do I change my team and enemy color? Greetings, General. Please go to Options, Main Parameters, Battle Interface to choose any color you might want. Another question comes from Gabe. I'm a veteran pilot, but I want to get started in American tanks. What are good tactics for beginner tanks, and which tanks are the best? Hello, Gabe. The best help we can offer for choosing a vehicle is the Climbing the Ranks videos. The American tanks are featured there, too. Borgsetjen writes, how can I get hexagonal camouflage? Hi, Borg. It's one of the many cool camouflages featured on our live War Thunder website. There are many more skins for your favorite vehicles, custom missions, aims, locations, and even full models. Check it out. And the last comment for today was written by Manos Raunakis. Can you please make a triathlon video for the starter helicopters from each country? Hey Manos, thanks for the idea. 7 game nations already have early helicopters, and we're certainly going to compare them in the nearest future. Okay, you lot, that's your lot for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. I would like you to subscribe to us and click that bell, which will ensure that you do not miss our next videos. Don't forget to put on your woolly long johns, warm hat, gloves, Arctic gear, umpteen pairs of socks, snow boots, and leave a like. Share your thoughts and comments, and yep, see you next week.